Who here is a parent? Raise your hand. Who here has a daughter? Do you want to ruin her childhood, maybe even the rest of her life? Because placing your daughters in beauty pageants may actually be doing exactly that. Placing children in beauty pageants is only detrimental to their well-being, and it takes away from their childhood by sexualizing them at such a young age. There are many reasons as to why pageants are not in the best interest of children. Children are vulnerable and they're open to a whole new world of possibilities to still explore. Placing them in pageants gives them the idea that being pretty is the only way to achieve, and because this mindset is being forced upon young children, beauty pageants are a form of child abuse. They're also a form of sexualization, even worse, they take away the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity of a childhood. Children are not making these decisions by themselves because their parents compel this upon them. They're a form of child abuse because parents are taking advantage of their children by harming them mentally and physically. In Billy Reed's chapter, he lets us know that placing children in beauty pageants is a form of child abuse, seeing as parents are manipulating their children and putting them in danger. In Cheryl Critchley's article, she says that if a child is not judged well, it could destroy their self-esteem, and because of this, psychologists believe that it is not proper behavior for young children. In David Cass Stevens' article, he says that these children with emotions as delicate as a glass slipper come home feeling crushed because they feel like they're not beautiful or good enough. And according to the Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment and Adoption Reform Act, child abuse is a physical or mental injury, sexual abuse, or exploitation of a child under circumstances which indicate the child's health or welfare is threatened or harmed. This exposure of young girls all over the internet and on TV and pageants is the way in which parents are misusing their children. One would assume these young girls wearing dresses worth thousands of dollars are admired and are special, but in fact it's quite the opposite, according to Eder and colleagues. Also in Guru's article, he says that the parents of these contestants say placing their children in these contests doesn't show their children are being misused because they're doing what they love to do, but this is completely false when there's parents entering young girls under a year old into pageants who obviously have no say whatsoever. Reed says that being involved in such judgments usually impairs children who are part of beauty pageants, leading to several problems of the mind and body, such as eating disorders. This goes along with what my sister's friend is going through right now. She's only a junior in high school and is currently battling anorexia, which may be due to the fact that her mom put so much pressure on her as a young girl to be pretty. She had many activities that required being dressed up, putting on makeup, and putting on an act, like figure skating, dance, and even some beauty pageants. And therefore, yeah, I believe beauty pageants are acting as a form of child abuse, because they are harming your daughters even if you may not know it. In Judy Mann's article, she states that young girls are lacking their certainty in themselves because of the culture we live in today, which is praising women for how they appear on the outside instead of on the inside. And given that our culture praises women in that way, is why we can call beauty pageants a form of sexualization. The sexualization of children is occurring because parents are dressing their children up, making them appear older than what they really are. Reed says that children are being put into clothes that they should not be wearing at this age and putting on makeup, which puts them in danger of pedophiles. TLC's show Toddlers and Tiaras is an example of this sexualization. On the show, toddlers are shown with spray tans, fake teeth, perfect hair, fake eyelashes, and even butt glue to make them look better. Mann also lets us know about the story of JonBenét, who was a young beauty queen that was murdered and sexually assaulted in the basement of her own home only the day after Christmas. Her parents may not have killed her, but they put her in the eyes of a pedophile, which is much worse. The murderer says he became aware of her through the sexualized images of her in these pageants, which should be enough to stop any parent who has ever thought of putting their little girl in a pageant, according to Reed. It's not so much that kids are becoming mature at a young age, we're sexualizing them at a young age. Says psychologist Arlene Burroughs, they don't get to be kids. There's a standard of being sexy, and it's not genuine sexuality. It's sexuality based on all the encounterments, the clothes, the makeup, the posturing. All these problems little girls are faced with because of beauty pageants are what takes away their childhood. Children need to experience being children, and entering them in beauty pageants only takes away from this opportunity to have a childhood. In Ashley Bradley's article, she says that children are supposed to be the fruit of our lives, the reason to keep the world on track. They're not supposed to be the tools to reach the fame their parents never could. Parents need to think about the reasons they're putting their little girl into a contest. Is it because they need to do it for themselves, or because their kid actually wants to? There are many concerns with the parents who choose to do this. In the article, Children's Beauty Pageants, Innocence in Evening Gowns, the author states that the concern is that putting children in beauty pageants puts stresses on them that only adults should be facing, not children. Beauty pageants have a strict competitive environment, which makes it hard for participants to make friends. Children should not be acting and living this way. There will be a time for them to do that, but right now is the time for them to enjoy and have fun being a kid and make friends. In Darlene Pfan's article, she says that in today's world of over-sexualized images and an emphasis on beauty, it's more important now than ever for children to be, well, children. Children who focus on just one thing, especially if they lose, will consider themselves failures. To see girls who are 3, 4, and 5 years old with all that heavy makeup on, well, I just think little girls should look like little girls, explained Marie Sprague, who is a former model. Children are here to have fun, play in the dirt, get messy, have fun, make new friends, experience new things. They're not here for parents to take advantage of them and force them into doing things they're never capable of doing. In Frashant's article, she says children should be able to experience a childhood and love themselves for who they are on the inside, not on the outside. No little girl should miss out on her childhood. Child beauty pageants are harmful to young girls because parents are forcing them to look and act older than they are, which will hurt them down the road. And it's an act of child abuse because parents are forcing them into doing things that will mentally and physically hurt them. Part of this abuse includes sexualizing them, forcing them to wear loads of makeup and costumes that make them look fake. Worst of all, this abuse and sexualization all adds up in the end, which takes away from their childhood. Nothing could ever be worse than taking a little girl's childhood away from them, and I really hope you can all leave here today changed parents. I know none of you want to ruin your child's future, so go home and make a change for the better.